game day is in Eugene. So that's really where the epicenter of college football is this weekend. And what a huge game we do have in the Pac-12. Oregon and Stanford. Och, when you look at this game, how important is it from the Pac-12's perspective that one team win over another as far as the playoffs down the road is concerned?
Yeah, it's paramount right now. And not only that one team wins, but more importantly, the right team has to win. And to me, that's the Oregon Ducks. Why? Because their schedule down the road is going to be much easier than Stanford's schedule. Oregon truly only has to go to Washington, or I believe they may even host Washington in their toughest test. But first, you got to stop Bryce Love. You got to stop Stanford, which is going to be a very tough and tall task.
I agree that one team has to win out, but it doesn't have to be Oregon. It can be Stanford. It can be Oregon. As long as they don't do a round robin of Stanford being Oregon, Oregon being Washington, Washington being Stanford. So the Pac-12 just needs one team to win out in the Pac-12 or have one loss, if it's Washington already with one loss, and then they can have a team in the playoffs. Doesn't necessarily have to be Oregon, even though Stanford has a tougher schedule, but one of them just has to win out.
So here is my fear, JV. The fear is that Stanford, even if they beat Oregon, they got to go play Notre Dame the following week. And then you look down the line of the schedule, Arizona State looks good right now, especially at home. That could end up being a night game. Washington away, that could be a tough game as well. So if I look at the two schedules, Stanford just has a much tougher and taller task. That's why, for the sake of the Pac-12, I would think Oregon should have to win this game just because Stanford rolled hard.
Arizona State just lost to San Diego State. I don't call that a tough matchup. Notre Dame,
no respect.
They can beat them, and they have beaten them. Look, that's your opinion. I'm just telling you, either one, and Stanford, that schedule is not as hard as it looks.
I think that schedule is pretty tough. It's harder than Oregon's. Oregon's got that road game at Utah, as you can see. But other than that, most of their hard games, or even their relatively difficult games, are going to be at home. Both teams do have the rivalry game that you would think would be a W at the end of the year. Stanford has Cal and Oregon with Oregon State. But the rivalry game, you never really know. All right, Texas A&M this weekend. That's a difficult task. Now, Jimbo Fisher, new coach at A&M, he likes to hunt and fish. Just get a win against Alabama.
If I had to say year, no meat for a full year, you doing that?
No, easy.
Easy?
I don't care who, but I love winning too much.
Yeah, we all love winning. It ain't easy to go vegan ever for a day, much less a year. You know what? Saban really has done well against his former assistants. You look at the games, he's gone 12-0 in his last dozen games, and most of them haven't even been close, including a 24-7 win against the Jimbo FSU team last year. Other than pray, Acho, what on earth does A&M have to do to beat Alabama this weekend?
You know, I looked at the game last year, and it was a one-possession game. It was 27-19. I asked myself, what did A&M do last year successfully? Well, they stopped Alabama offensively. They held them to the 300-yard mark, around there. They have to stop them first and foremost, and they have to get off the field on third down. That is the biggest thing. Get off the field on third down, and they have to win the turnover battle. If they can do those things, they have a chance. Both those things will not necessarily guarantee them a win, but you have a fighting chance if you stop them on third down and win the turnover battle.
Yeah, I agree with you, Acho. One thing I also want to address is that if you play cover two, and this is the first time I'll ever say this about an Alabama offense, if you play cover two and stop the pass first instead of the run, worry about stopping the pass, you can get Tua to force some balls and create those turnovers you were talking about. So it's very interesting that the whole Alabama offense has turned on its head. And I'm sitting here saying the only way to slow them down is play cover two. And then you do that, you get some opportunities, keep it close late in the end, and hopefully Kellen Mond can make a play or two.
I can't completely count A&M out because they played Clemson so tight. And like JV just said, they have Kellen Mond. He makes a lot of things happen. Trayvon Williams, top SEC leading rusher. Turnovers, that's the key, and get some points on the board.
On our championship drive, our Dr. Pepper championship drive preview, game of the week is Georgia and Mizzou. Now, you talk about a Mizzou team that can put points on the board. We know that. But Drew Lock is 0-3 in his career against the Dogs. 7 touchdown passes, a total QBR of 72. Best against any SEC opponent. Remember this game 2 years ago in Columbia was really close. Georgia needed a last-minute drive to win it. So, Vilma, Drew Lock versus the Georgia defense. Who are you going to give the edge to here?
Georgia defense. I mean, this is not even a discussion. Acho, take it. I mean, it's Georgia defense. It's Georgia all the way.
Look, I got to discuss. I'm giving the edge to Drew Lock. 1,100 yards already, 1 touchdown. Now, here's what I'll say. I'm still giving the game to the Bulldogs, but as far as Drew Lock versus the Georgia defense, Drew Lock is going to get his. He did last year when he had 4 touchdowns. He has every game thus far. He's going to get his, but Georgia's still going to take the game.
But, Acho, this isn't basketball. No one cares if Drew Lock gets his. We're talking about winning the game or losing the game. If Georgia's going to win, Georgia's going to win. Drew Lock has to get his by winning. If he doesn't win, then it doesn't matter what stats he puts up.
Well, here's what we know. Drew Lock will at least give them a fighting chance, because if he throws for 300, 350 plus, that should keep them in the game at least for a half. After that, it's a toss-up.
Yeah, he's going to have to hope for a track meet in that one. Mizzou's going to want to stay in it at home. All right, let's look at last week with TCU and Texas. Both these teams are going at it this weekend. Both of them played really well last week. TCU lost and Texas won. And I look at this Texas team as an underdog inside Darrell K. Royal after the way they played last week against USC. I don't think they're getting the respect they deserve.
Well, here's the thing. We have to look at things from a neutral perspective, not wins, not losses, because TCU did look just as good in their loss to Ohio State as Texas did in its blowout victory against USC. They're playing different opponents. Both those teams are looking good right now. TCU's the favorite, as they should be. Texas hasn't done enough. They played fantastic against USC. If they build on that, they can win that ball game. But TCU's going to be upset, and they're going to be very well coached. It's up to Texas to show that they are truly back. One win against USC isn't enough. Not enough for Herman, not enough for the players, not enough for the fans.
Well, yeah, I agree with you, Acho. I'd say TCU, they could have easily won that game had it not been for the turnovers. When you look at Texas, Texas had to do a lot to win against a very average USC team. They almost lost to a very average Tulsa team. They lost to a Maryland. So there's no reason why I would ever take Texas right now. TCU doesn't turn the ball over against Ohio State. We're looking at a 1-score game. So I take TCU traveling well to Texas, creating turnovers and playing good defense to win that game.
Well, that TCU team lost to an Ohio State team last weekend with Nick Bosa. The Buckeyes are going to be without now their star defensive end for a little bit. He had surgery to repair an abdominal muscle. Don't know how long he's going to be out. So they get Tulane this weekend, but then a trip to Happy Valley next. If Bosa can't go, JV, does that level the playing field between the Buckeyes and the Nittany Lions in terms of that game coming up?
No, it doesn't level the playing field. What it does is really give a break to Penn State as far as the offensive game planning. Nick Bosa is a game-changing defensive end. That means it doesn't matter what you do and how many guys you put on him. If he's not accounted for every time, he can have a strip sack that causes a turnover, a touchdown. He does things like that, which changes the complexity of the game. So with Nick Bosa not there, yeah, you can say, well, Ohio State's still a better team with a better D-line versus Penn State's O-line. But you don't have to game plan for him.
First things first, you got to put into perspective who is Nick Bosa. He leads the team in sacks, in tackles for loss, in tackles. He is the Ohio State Buckeyes defense, probably the best defensive lineman college football has seen since Ndamukong Suh. With that being said, when you lose Bosa, everybody's going to have to step up, specifically Ohio State on offense. Going to have to do more, put up more points. In my opinion, CC, it definitely levels that playing field.